Okay. Okay. So let me see if we can see them. Okay. And I'll be able to see the comments too.
Okay. Yeah, I see that on the side of mine too.
Yeah, okay. You do, okay. And also the YouTube. Back. Hey, thank you everyone for joining us tonight for Black Men Linked. And tonight's topic will be healing the hearts of Black men. Guest speaker Eric Taylor. And my name is Trustica Hamilton, and I'm the founder of BlackMenHealing.com, as well as the owner of the SID Center. And we have Black Men Linked as a virtual event for Black men so that you could discuss issues affecting Black men. And one of the concerns that we have for Black men is your heart. You know, what's on your heart, being able to share what's on your heart, having that support, but also just your physical heart. You know, so we focus on holistic wellness, which is your mind, body, and spirit, and also your finances and how that impacts your health and your heart as well. And so tonight's guest is Eric Taylor. He's a licensed psychotherapist. He also specializes in relationships and couples counseling. And I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everybody, my name is Eric Taylor. I've been in the counseling field for about 5 years now. Um, I own me and my wife. We own our own practice called Taylor's Touch of Clarity, mental health counseling. And just like Miss Hamilton was saying, I do specialize in marriage counseling and relationship, healthy relationships and boundaries. So I'm honored to be a part of this conversation today.
And thank you for joining us tonight, Eric, as well as
Absolutely.
being willing to answer questions that our audience may have. And one of the topics I want to touch on, because I deal with a lot with the Black Men Healing Circles, a lot of the concerns with a lot of the Black men are relationships, even just with the married men, the marriage relationships and the kids, but also with men who are single fathers. And they have a lot of issues as far as fatherhood rights or not being able to see their children, or issues with that and how that affects their heart, and just the battles that they deal with just trying to have their fatherhood rights. And so I do want to talk about that as far as how to deal with the emotional part of your heart health and learning how to adjust and co-parent effectively so that it doesn't jeopardize your heart. Because I tell them all the time, if you are stressed like that and upset, and constantly at war with the mother of your children, that affects your heart. That stress it affects your health, period, and also your heart. But just learning how to deal with that emotional battle of fatherhood. Do you have any tips for them for that?
Yeah, so when we're even just talking about fatherhood, we have to just kind of just think about how much of a wonderful thing that is, right? And just kind of reevaluate just our goals and our motivation to be a parent. And when we're even thinking about that, parenting, it takes a village. And, just like Ms. Hamilton said, sometimes there are going to be things that arise within a relationship that don't work out. But we have to just kind of focus on what that means now moving forward and just get into a place where we can have common ground, being respectful, and even being able to just kind of forgive and move forward in a positive light. Sometimes the situations do or end in a bitter way, and we just have to just kind of think to ourselves, what is our goal? How do we want our children to perceive us, and what do we want to pass on to them? Because that emotional well-being is, they're going to see it all, and they're going to see how you're handling that situation. So even, when we are kind of faced with those legality systems and, things like that, we have to just kind of get to a space where we're like, okay, this is frustrating. This is, upsetting. This is, even some might say this is annoying. But we can't lose sight of just the focus, and that's parenting, raising our children.
Okay, thank you for that information. And also, a key part of that is forgiveness, learning to forgive, even when it's hard or you feel that you've been treated unfairly, because that affects your heart as well, having that unforgiveness in your heart and that bitterness.
Yes.
So thank you for that. And then another issue, we also discussed a lot about how racial trauma affects Black men and how that affects you physically. We talk about how trauma is stored in your body, and that affects your physical health as well as your emotional health, just holding on to that and dealing with that, especially in the workplace and in society that Black men have to deal with. Do you have any tips to help them cope with that and deal with racial trauma?
Yes, I think, we have to just think and come from a space of awareness, right? First off, we have to kind of figure out where some of these things stemming from. And then after we kind of can figure out, what our triggers are, where this is stemming from, we can kind of start to adjust our behavior. So whether we're lashing out in anger or just isolating ourselves, and, these different behaviors that we're experiencing, you know, and sometimes they're not as negative that we may notice them, right off. But, sometimes just things just don't feel right. And when things don't feel right, we lash out, we don't feel good. And just kind of like you said, that physical, we start being worn down going to work every day. And sometimes those feelings come up of like, why am I even doing this? I'm being, taken for granted, or this isn't worth it. And my advice and my guidance is that we have to come together, even as a community, whether it's through therapy or even just talking and being able to trust in the people around us to support us, and being able to be open about how we're feeling and come to some resolve, because we all have a breaking point. And one of the things that we don't want to happen is we don't want to get to that breaking point and end up doing something that we regret. So knowing the signs is very important, one of the most important things. And then just some coping skills, learning to step away from the situation, breathing, taking a break, coming into things with a clear mind and a clear headspace to even have a conversation. Even when we're thinking about in the workplace, we might think that we're being, let's say, disrespected, and all it could be is a misunderstanding. But we have these blinders on, we're feeling cloudy. So we have to balance that, even thinking about doing things that are healthy. If we can do things that are healthy, taking care of our body, even things that we enjoy. It can't always be some of that grunt work. I'm probably going to definitely touch on it more, but self-care. Without self-care, we're going to result in burnout. We're going to get to a space where we're just tired of the rigmarole, So we definitely have to just keep these things in mind and challenge ourselves to get out of that cycle.
Thank you for that, because that's one of the things that's very important for Black men is practicing self-care and making that a part of your daily routine. He said even just exercising or getting out in nature and going for a walk to relieve stress
Right.
and just practicing self-care, or even like you said, having that support system. I think that's very important, having people who a positive network where you can share what's on your heart and being able to share your feelings without judgment is so important. But definitely having a support network. And even if it's not friends that you can trust, having a therapist. I think therapy is important too. Having, if that's necessary, finding the right therapist. And also even just practicing mindfulness. It's good, like I said, being aware of what's going on so that it doesn't affect you deeply. And also mindful eating, your eating habits. And also I think journaling is something that we need to focus more on as well too, being able to journal and using that as self-care, even if it's something that's a bedtime routine, being able to recount your day and recount the lessons from the day and how that can improve your life. And do you have any other self-care tips for Black men?
I think you kind of hit a lot of them. I think that even when we think about self care, it's just really about community. Even when we're going to
Yes.
just go get a haircut, that that community is great. Is that camaraderie, and we're able to just kind of even vent, even though it's not always about so many serious things, right? So yes, definitely exploring and figuring out what fits for you. I understand, like, for instance, some people can't really sit still, right? So even when we get to a space where you might even say, let's go play basketball, or let's go and do play a football game, pickup game. These are things that are still able to be a healthy outlet. So it's just really about what works for you and finding that way to just kind of get out of that cycle.
Thank you for that. And also, you mentioned earlier about preventing burnout. I think sometimes it's easy to use work as an escape if you are trying to avoid dealing with, with what's on your mind, or trying to avoid feeling your feelings. So I think that's important too, being aware when you feel feeling burnt out or when you feel like you're trying to escape through work. Some people use other avenues as an escape from what's actually stressing them out instead of dealing with the root cause. So just being aware of your work habits and making sure that's not actually causing issues in the rest of your life. And then we have a comment from Paul Dyer. He said that I'm glad that men like yourselves are talking about this important issue. It is crucial to have open conversations and raise awareness about the topic at hand. The more people engage in discussions, the more likely we are to find solutions and create positive change. So thank you for that feedback, Dr. Dyer. So it is important to have these conversations and to keep having them. I think that's important too, to decrease the mental health stigma in the Black community, is to keep talking about it and learning about different solutions that are available. So thank you for your feedback. Okay. And I also want to talk about, because we talked about work, and another thing that also, related to work that can affect your heart health, because it affects your physical health and the stress and that comes to that is financial stress, just dealing with financial stress. And like I said, and just stress period can jeopardize your health, especially your heart health when it's very stressful. So let's talk about that, the impact of your financial well-being and how that impacts you. Because I have a lot of men who that's one of their goals is to, either change careers or to make more money and to enjoy their careers. Doing work that you love makes a big difference in your life. So let's talk about how we can improve our financial well-being to improve heart health.
Yeah, so I think, when we're even talking about financial well being, I think that it gets to a space where we have to navigate from, a place of just even self worth. I know that a lot of the times when we're even thinking about finances, we're thinking about how much pressure we have, right? Um, I gotta support my family. I have to pay, bills. Sometimes that even equates to working a job you hate or that you don't, really care for. And I think that I've always been told, even coming up, is that sometimes you have to do some of the things that you don't want to do so that you can do the things that you do want to do, right? And that's just kind of, again, it's just the same. It's like you're still able to have dreams through, financial hardship. You're still able to go and acquire that career that you want. Sometimes it does just take a little bit more time or even a lot more time. But I think it's really important because the day to today is one thing, but you get to a space where a few years go by and you still may be in that same space and you're just wondering, like, where did time go? What happened? How did I get here? And I think that when we even just slow down and we start to just think about um, our goals and reevaluate them, we can accomplish some of those things. And we can also make it to where it's not as much pressure on us because of all the things and all the people that we may have to provide for, because that is important, taking care of your family. But you can't take care of your family if you run yourself into the ground and your health is declining. Even just one of the biggest data points is that why men don't live as long as women, and it's because of that stress. It's because of that pressure. And it's not to say that we can necessarily just erase that pressure or that that issue, that gap, but how do we work smart and not hard? How do we get to that space where instead of saying we're going to a job, we're going to a career, or we're going to a establishment, or we're owning a business, or we're doing something that we love, that we care about, that we're even interested in? And how do we portray that to the next generation? How we make sure that they're doing something that they are interested in, and so that they don't have to go into that same cycle that we may have had to engage in. So I think that just goes back to just hierarchy of needs as well. So when basic needs aren't met, it impacts everyone mentally, emotionally, and physically. So we have to make sure our hierarchy is met, and we have to make changes to adjust that.
Thank you for that great feedback. Because that's another thing too, when you mentioned about men, a lot of men live, their lifespan is shorter than women because a lot of, especially in the Black community, well, men, period, they're raised to be providers. And it's like they have that stress to provide, especially if they have a family, and then having to work a job because you have to provide for your family, even if you hate that job. So I think a key point that you mentioned is having a plan where if you don't like the work that you're doing, you have a plan where you have goals to have a better career, but you also need to have a plan for to accomplish that goal, where you may be working at a job, but also you have a plan to either go to school part-time or at night to fit around your work schedule, to increase your skills, or to prepare for a new career. Or you have a plan to networking is important, for as far as career changes and making those valuable connections. But just having that plan, and also I think that helps you to not be so stressed out when you see that even though you're working every day and you hate what you're doing, that you have that plan that motivates you. But you have that front and center and see that you are at least taking steps towards that plan. So I think it's good to even have like tasks for daily tasks that's tied to your goal, so that you can see that you're making progress, and so that it doesn't turn to year after year where you feel like feel like your life is being wasted because you feel like you haven't moved further along after a few years. And also, I think too, just your perception about it, because if you're providing for your family, then the job is not really a waste of time. It's something that's contributing to your goal, to provide for your family. But also just knowing that you have options, and then change your perception about it too. Knowing that you can also, prepare for a different career, but it may take longer than what you expect. Sometimes I think that's a part of it too with your heart health and that emotional heart, is sometimes when your dream seems like it's deferred, or you may feel like your dream never will come to pass, just having to change your perception. Because if you think that you don't have your dream is deferred or will never happen, that can also make you depressed or cause you to give up, and you don't want to give up on your dreams. So I think a very important part is having that goal. What type of career do you want, and how much money would you like to make each year? And then keeping a plan, a daily plan for that. And then Dr. Paul Dyer said he's been teaching Black men financial health to truly see each other and see value in each other and help one another advance in any direction one needs help in. And that's true. Just having that support. That's why I said networking is so important. Like if you want to go to a new career, find organizations that have conferences or have different meetings where you can start attending and start networking and have that support. And that way you can get information about what to prepare for, what you need to prepare for, how to prepare for interviews, because there are people who are willing to help you. So just being able to find this, again, having a support network. And so even having a mentor, and I think LinkedIn is a good place to find those connections as well for the new career. That's something you can do at night, reaching out to 5 people each day who have the type of career that you're interested in, and asking them if it's okay to ask them questions about their career. But mentoring is very important, not just for kids, but for adults too, to help you further along in your life and achieve what you want to achieve. So thank you for that feedback. And also, if you're listening to the live, you can always ask questions, and it'll show up, and Eric will be happy to answer your questions. But like I said, and I think we keep going back to, as well as the support network, as far as your heart health. It's so important in every area, actually, even with the physical health. Having that, as far as exercising or even doing the hiking, just finding people who are where you want to be, are willing to support you with your goals. So that applies to everything, even the financial part, having a mastermind or networking groups. So you always see in every area of your life how important it is to have support in each area.
Yeah, while we wait to see if anybody else has any comments, I even share personal experiences. I'm also a veteran, so I spent some time in the Army. And when I got out, you go to all these different screenings and you just get some blood work and things done, and it turned out that I had thyroid issues. And I was like, I was just wondering where this came from. It wasn't really hereditary in my family. And around the same time, I was actually diagnosed with PTSD. And PTSD is linked to having thyroid issues. And when I got some help with that from going to counseling myself while I was in my master's program, I actually worked through some of that PTSD, and I went and got retested like a year maybe later, and it was no more traces of the thyroid issues. And that just kind of goes to show too, is just how powerful that mental aspect is, and how it does affect your health in a way that you wouldn't even know.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
And thank you for your service too. But that's important too. I feel like a lot of our veterans don't have the support they need when they come back into civilian life. So that's important that you mentioned that you went to therapy to it and how that helped you. So thank you for sharing that. And Dr. Dyer says he's also a 15-year Army vet.
Yes.
So thank you for your service. He asks, what are your ideas on reaching out to the youth?
I have a few ideas about reaching out to the youth. I think that we have to make sure that we're getting involved in the things that they're involved in. So even again, awareness. I just think, personally, even when we think about black young boys, one of the biggest things that they kind of gravitate around is music and sports and things like that. And those are definitely healthy outlets to an extent, but I think that even still, they need that guidance too. They need that mentorship that we talked about. They need to know that their dreams matter, and we have to kind of meet them where they are, whether it's on the field or on the basketball court, or even playing video games. That's really big now in this day and age. It's like they're on the game and things like that too, and it's like we have to try to think outside the box to be able to reach the youth, because that's how we get their interest. Is being interested in those things that they're interested in. I work with a few young men, and you have to be able to relate to them for them to even want to have that conversation with you. So I think a big role or a big part of it for us is to making sure that we are still engaged in some of the things that they like to do, or even educating ourselves about it.
Thank you for that. And it is important to meet them where they are and ensure that you're interested in what they're interested in. And also, like I said, the mentoring is important for our Black boys as well. I mean, that's something that's constant throughout your life that'll help, is having mentoring. And also just knowing that the kids are watching. So as the men are taking care of their health and doing what they need to do, the boys are learning from the men, because the kids are always watching. They learn a lot from music and the media. They also learn from what they're seeing in their own communities and for the men in their own lives. So just know, as you're taking care of your health and improving your lives, then the kids are learning from you. So that's the saying. There's a saying that what they see is what they'll be. So just know that your pain is not in vain. If you're going through your own journey, your own healing journey, and feel like maybe things are not working out, just know that it's not in vain, because there are youth that are learning from you, and you'll be able to share what you've learned during your healing journey. And so I think that's very important, just to know that they are watching and learning. Just so it's very important to be able to reach back, even just to talk to them about if you're going through struggles. A lot of kids think that adults are not struggling, but we're still, a lot of adults are still trying to figure out who they are, who they want to be. So it's like you never really grow up, because you're constantly growing. Life is about growth, and just being realistic with them, to let them know that it's a constant journey as far as the growth process as a human being, because a lot of our youth period are stressed out, and they think that adults have it all figured out, but we don't. We have to be honest about that with the youth, to let them know a lot of us don't have it all figured out, because they're stressed and thinking that they should have certain things figured out, and it's not possible, and it's unrealistic.
And I want to even piggyback on that. One of the things that we also have to make sure that we're doing is like listening to the youth. I know that a lot
Yes.
of a trend right now is that, I hear sometimes parents or even adults say, you're not, you're not going through anything. This isn't, your life isn't bad. It's, you have a good life, and you shouldn't be depressed or stressed or have anxiety issues. And the thing about that is, the world is a lot different than I think any of us in whatever generation you're in grew up. It's changed from mine to, I'm sure, Miss Hamilton, to everybody on this call. And one of the things that we have to acknowledge is just having a conversation of what's going on. Talk to
Yes.
How can I help you? How can I support you? And I think that those are those moments where we can open up, we can be transparent. It's not us dumping our issues onto them. And it's really about being transparent to the youth so that we can help them not make the same mistakes. Time after time, we may hear that, I told you so sometimes, but it's like, did you really tell me so? Or did you just tell me something to try to scare me out of something? And like, we can really avoid some of that heartache, especially with our kids, if we're just open and honest and just kind of let them know, like, yeah, I dropped the ball here, but this is what I did to make this right. This is what I want you to be able to do. And instead of that, do as I say, don't do as I do. That does not it's been proven that does not work. So we have to make sure that we're not ignoring, the youth, and that we're able to support them how they need or want to be supported as well. Of course, they're kids, so they're going to need that guidance of that reassurance as well. But we got to make sure we're still willing to hear them out.
That is so true. Thank you for that. And also just having those crucial conversations, like you said, asking them what they're going through and how they're really feeling. Because even since the pandemic, it's like everybody is still recuperating from that. We've all, had a lot of stresses just from dealing with that. And so a lot of, adults need to realize the kids but are still recovering from the pandemic as well. Their mental health suffered as well. And I think a lot of people, a lot of adults, they incorrectly think that children are resilient. We hear that a lot, but that does not mean that they can go through a lot and not break. They have mental health issues as well, just like adults. So I think we need to understand that they may be resilient, but they're still children, and they have their own issues that they're struggling with, and they need to be able to share what's on their heart as well, so that they don't grow up with heart issues or are not feeling like they're not valued or appreciated. Okay, David Bailey said that really makes me think of intergenerational trauma and the impacts of carrying that over to future generations. It really impacts expectations and standards of how they should be. Thank you for that feedback, David. Yeah, and that's one of the ways we can help break generational curses and reduce generational trauma is having those crucial conversations where the adults actually talk to the children and ask the children how they're really feeling so that the kids feel heard instead of saying, kids should be seen and not heard. We need to actually start listening to kids so that the kids feel heard and seen. Especially in the Black community, we need to do more of those, have more of those important discussions. And a lot of people, they really don't want to hear what the kids have to say. They're afraid of what they will hear, but you need to hear it to prevent the issues from becoming worse. So it's very important, even in counseling, if you need family therapy, then do what needs to be done in order to prevent issues from becoming worse as the children grow older.
Right. And even I want to even piggyback kind of off of what David Bailey said is that, when we think about it, even that intergenerational trauma, sometimes we don't even know what trauma we're really carrying.
Yeah.
We're just carrying it all. We're carrying that one thing that is common of even, young Black boys, they start thinking, oh, well, I'm gonna get my family out the hood, or, I'm gonna buy my mom a house and these different things. And it's not to say that these aren't good things to do, but I think that sometimes we get so laser focused that we're not really explaining how we got here and how we can avoid this in the future, and what generational wealth looks like. And it doesn't have to be such a you don't have to be a millionaire to to get out of intergenerational trauma, these different things. All we have to do is you know make some change. But the only thing that way we can make change is being transparent, being honest about some of the things that have happened in the family, and some of the things that need to be changed. If your dad's dad never talked to anybody or opened up about anything, and he was just so grumpy, so mad, turned into alcohol, these different things, that cycle, no one even knows why he was so upset or what was going on with him, because no one had the opportunity to talk to him about it. And even with the health aspect, so many times we go to the doctor and we look at these questionnaires, and it asks is, any family members have these issues. We don't know. We just know that something was wrong with, our uncle or our granddad or something like that, but we don't know what their conditions were because not many people are talking. So we definitely have to even make a change there, because that allows us to detect things for early screening so that we can protect ourselves against, different diseases that may run in our family, things like that, if we're even transparent about things like that.
Thank you. That is so very important to know your family history. We talk about it, intergenerational trauma, but also knowing your family medical history, like you said, see things, certain things, genetic, run in the family, and also learning how to prevent certain things that's not even genetic, but that is due to behaviors that are passed down from generation to generation that are not healthy. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't even know what trauma, what they are. It's like you're used to it, so you don't even realize that you're enduring trauma because it's something that you grow up with and you see it everywhere. And so just understanding what is healthy behaviors that could be changed, in your generation, so that you can have healthier future generations. And again, those conversations are very important, even knowing about the medical history. And also, just what that's a good point you made about the knowing about the medical history, but also the mental health history. When you go to therapy, they ask you. A lot of people don't even understand that. They don't understand that their uncle, the drunk uncle, he could, he's an alcoholic, and understanding what's the root cause of the alcoholism. That's a serious issue. But we joke about certain things in the Black community, but we don't understand that a lot of it is rooted in trauma. And also just understanding, we don't, crazy is not a diagnosis. We need to understand that you have family members who are actually, they have mental illness, but they don't understand what's really going on. And so just even having that conversation so that when you go to your, you may be the first person in your family to start therapy, but being able to discuss that with your therapist and understanding the history. And it also helps you to understand your history better, your family history better. Okay, David says, so true, Eric. This idea of masculinity impacting our ability to heal or seek help. The process of seeking could and has been perceived as a weakness, and that creates avoidance of this.
Yes. I think that, you know, everyone, I think, of course, has a different definition of what masculinity looks like. I think we all see the debates, too, and social media and things like that as well. But I think, again, it's like if we can just look at the root of like, what is masculinity really? Who is, let's say, checking for someone's masculinity? How is that bettering our health, and what is that doing for us in the day to day? And I think that, again, we've just kind of lost focus on what it really means to be masculine. It's not keeping things inside. It's not just work. Masculinity, in my opinion, is being respectful, being honest, being a caring, um being open, being able to be vulnerable. And I think that, that, like you said, that is looked at as a weakness, because someone may say, oh, well, that's you just you're being soft, and, you have to be hardcore, have this, exterior. You don't have to have that exterior, because what a lot of people don't see is that the most people who I would deem and say are successful are those people who have great relationship, great communication skills, and that takes a lot of vulnerability. And vulnerability is not a weakness; it's one of the most powerful strengths you can have, because it's one of the hardest things to do. And I think even as a community, we have to get to a place where we just kind of stop having these conversations of this person not being, so masculine because they act this way. The real thing is, are we holding our friends, our family members accountable for being, living the way that they are, perceiving that they are? Are we calling them out and trying to help them, to be their authentic true self, instead of it just being this, boasting thing? I think that it's just kind of like, we got to this place where we're just trying to boast. And again, it's not about how much money this person has, or how much, women this person has, right? Because the most wealthiest people also have mental illness. They also have family issues. They also have these things. And, that doesn't make us stronger. The best thing that makes us stronger is just being open and being vulnerable and being able to have those tough conversations, and that's going to ultimately create all that change that we need, and that just goes back to even this event. It's like that's what it means to focus on your heart, physically and emotionally.
Thank you for that. And that's something that's talked about a lot with Black men as far as masculinity, because Black men is like they have this thing in the media where you have to be hard. That's considered being masculine as a Black man, being hard, but that's also damaging because I say still that breaks as well. So it's so important to know that there's strength and vulnerability, and that it's okay to feel your feelings and to be aware of your emotions as a Black man, because that is you have you become too hard and you harden your heart, and that damages your health, and that also decreases your lifespan. So it is very important for Black men to know that, like you said, being authentic and being able to ask for help when they need it, and asking for support when they need it, instead of being the one who's supporting everybody else. It's okay to be a provider, but also realize that your needs need to be met as well. And being okay to ask for help and start your healing. So thank you for that. And if anyone else has any questions, you can type them in the box, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. But I also think it's especially what you said about the masculinity, and just we have a lot of pressure just from the media, as far as we have these stereotypes of Black people in the media that we always deal with, and I think that goes back to even racial trauma, because it's like we have these expectations placed upon us by outside forces, through the media, that are unrealistic. And even like you said, with the men, feel like they have to have a lot of women, to feel like they're masculine, and it's that's not even true. But we have to also look at what we're taking in from the media, and just music, what you're saying on TV, and what you're listening to, and make sure that you're not being programmed with unrealistic expectations as far as how you should be as a Black man. And so we really need to be more aware, more mindful of what we're taking in from outside influences.
Yes, I think that's so true. I think, even when we are, I've been victim to it of just like even enjoying just some music and not realizing that that's the why, the reason you're feeling a certain way, or it's
Yes.
affecting your mood, it's affecting your spirit, and sometimes we don't even think about why we are liking a certain music. And, we have to even think about the root of that is like, you know, music has different waves that speak to you, that it's literally going into your brain and into your mind. And you start to just kind of feel the way that it's provoking you to feel. And I think that again, it's like, the media we all know isn't going anywhere, right? It's not going anywhere. It's only going to get more advanced, or it's only going to spread and reach us in different ways. I think that we just have to get to a space where we are ensuring that we aren't trying to imitate other people and be other people. We have to be ourselves, who you are. You're not going to be able to be that person that you may see on TV or in the rap videos, or different things like that. It's that's not your life, and you want to make sure that you're living your life for you.
Yes. That's very important. And Dr. Dyer asks, do you think women demasculate Black men?
I think that is definitely a loaded question, right? I think that kind of definitely portrays back into some of these debates that we're having. I think it really depends on. I mean, every situation, I guess, is of course unique, but I think that there's always going to be different sides of the coin, right? There are
Yeah.
going to be women that are, demasculating black men, and they should definitely be called out for it. But men also do the same thing, right? We harp on other men and we talk about, how they're soft, like, oh, Russell Wilson, that's one of the big ones right now, right?
Yeah.
Is he really a man, for the things that he's doing, right? Um, and we have to be mindful of what everyone take offense to. Some men, in my opinion, they don't like to be held accountable. One thing that I know and that I've always kind of been raised to realize is that when you call a man out on something, it's not always going to be just met with understanding. It's unfortunately going to be sometimes met with aggression or things like that. So I think that, to go back and answer your question, Dr. Dyer, I think that it is very possible that women demasculate black men, but I think that that can also be a trauma response to just not being able to be transparent of how we're really feeling. So I think again, kind of goes back to how men may tear down other men, and then vice versa. Women tear down men, and even some men tear down women, right? But I think we just have to come to a space where we're just having open and conversations about expectations and what things look like. It just kind of goes back to just even again the let's say the 50-50 conversation. There are some men that's all they can afford. And there's some men that are more traditional or that they can't afford to say, what? No, I'm going to pay it all. I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Right. And then there's some with unique situations where women make the most money. And now where are we left at? Is that, them demasculating that man or, making him feel less of a man? I don't think it should because we're in a partnership. You making more money, I'm making more money. We're happy. But I think that kind of piggyback and just go back to what the media may say or some of these debates may say is that, no, you're not doing enough. And that's not true. We're with a person because they uplift us. And even if we're thinking about that, how do you think that your partner is able to possibly make some of the money that they make? Because you're supporting them. Did you have anything to say on that subject, Ms. Hamilton?
Yeah, I think that goes back, like you said, to having those crucial conversations, especially between black men and black women, because it's like a war with a lot of them in the community. So it's so important to have those conversations because even working with black men and listening to them about their relationships and their regrets about relationships, it's like it could have been said that they would have had the important conversations, even in therapy, because a lot of stuff they're saying is the same thing women are asking or saying, but it's like the communications, styles are different between the men and women. So it's just important to have those conversations. And if you feel like you're not being, and I think it goes down to respect too. But if a man is not feeling respected by a woman, if you're not, then you have a discussion about that. That's a conversation that needs to be had because a woman may feel like she's not being appreciated. So I think that, and it goes back to having those, crucial conversations and learning how to communicate effectively. I think that's one of the issues that we're seeing between black men and black women, especially this constant war in the media that we see about the war between black men and black women. It's like we just need to learn how to communicate more effectively and safe spaces. And that safe space is crucial where you won't be called out or disrespected or judged, and where you could be honest and having those honest, crucial conversations. So thank you for that, Eric. And if anybody has any final questions, you can type them in the chat box, and then we'll wrap this up. And thank you so much, Eric, for your feedback.
Yes, of course. I'm really enjoying this, and I think that again, it's like this is also how we make change: is be able to have these open dialogues and be able to just kind of get awareness out there and just have these, thought provoking conversations. we're all entitled to have our own opinions, and this isn't about who's right or who's wrong. It's just more or less about just being informative, and even
Yes.
able to just, again, a different perspective is just also enlightening, and I think that this is a really great platform too. And I just even want to kind of take the time to even thank you, Ms. Hamilton, not only for inviting me, but for the work that you're doing in the community, because you
Thank
know
you.
so many times and so much, Black men don't know that they even have things like this, and how you've been helping this community here in Georgia. And again, it's just like, I am hoping that, this kind of thing is happening everywhere. But again, there are those gems that we know and people are trying to make a change. But I just want to also just encourage anybody who's, on this call is, just try to get involved in the community. Try to look and see what is happening, to just even spread information, even if it's not for you. I know even for myself, when I was invited to this, I wanted to just spread the awareness of, like, this is a great opportunity, and this event was free. But even some of those that cost, invest, because we're investing in your future, you're investing in yourself. And if we just really look at any investment, whether it's getting into shape, eating healthy, no matter what, it's going to cost.
Yes.
Whether it's money or time, it's going to cost you. But it's about just getting to that area and that space of being able to improve your well being. So, again, thank you, Ms. Hamilton, for all that you're doing in the community.
But thank you, and thank you, Eric, for showing up and agreeing to participate. And this is something that the Black Men Linked events, they are held monthly. And so, like I said, it only takes an investment of your time, because it's free and it's virtual. You don't even have to travel. And so again, it's every month. And you can join our mailing list in the free Black Men Healing community at blackmenhealing.com. And then that way you'll be notified about future Black Men Linked events and other events that we have. And again, that's blackmenhealing.com. And you can join the free Black Men Healing community. And Eric, and again, our guest speaker tonight is Eric Taylor. He's a licensed professional counselor. And also, will you share your website and your private practice name?
Yeah, so it's Taylor's Touch of Clarity, mental health counseling, and I'll put the web link in the chat so that for anybody to see. And we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram. So if you just type in Taylor's Touch of Clarity, we should pop right up. And we service North Carolina and Georgia, so we are trying to help as many people as we can, whether it's with services or even just pointing you in the right direction of what your specific needs are, because that's what's important too in this field, is just being able to make connections with other people that can give the resources to those in need. And again, it's just about us being able to come together and just kind of make this change, because it takes more than one person. It's a village. And I think that everybody who joined this call today, I think that that's why it's important that you even join and that you're here, is because you care about your community. So let's continue
Yes.
to uplift one another and work together to make some change. So if anybody needs to reach out to me, to even for support, or just to kind of get some more resources, or even bump ideas of helping this community or the community that you're in, I'm more than welcome to, you're reaching out to me.
For that. And again, this is Eric Taylor. And also, my name is Tressica Hamilton, and I'm the founder of blackmenhealing.com and the owner of the SID Center. And again, like I said, you can go to blackmenhealing.com to be informed about future Black Men Linked events. And so thank you so much, Eric. And thank you for our guests who participated and asked questions. We appreciate you participating. And do you have any final comments, Eric?
Just wanted to just say again, thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody who joined the call today. And if you take anything from this, just try to take care of yourself. physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You matter. And I think that that's something we all need to hear daily, whether it's from someone else or just yourself. You matter.
Thank you so much for that, Eric. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And again, this topic was Healing the Hearts of Black Men. And we look forward to seeing you at future Black Men Linked events. And have a good night, everyone. And thank you, Eric, and have a good night.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Okay, bye-bye.